You didn't start. You're supposed to wait the 3 seconds.
God.
You didn't do that.
Okay.
1, 2. 1, 2, 3, go.
Hey, everybody. It's Sophie and Marco. Dish out on the movies. And we're continuing our full moon movie week, or movie month.
There are a lot of full moons in this movie.
And this, yeah, they sure are. And they're in the butt kind.
I think people
Women's
figured
butts.
that out, Sophie.
Anyway.
How do you... How would you... Okay.
I don't think we saw any men's butts. I think it was all women's.
Oh, did you want to? I don't understand.
Care. We thought this was a horror movie, and it was nothing but... It was made in Italy, and it premiered in Italy, maybe in the 70s. Who knows? And it's in color and has weird music with springs that go bling, 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 bling.
Sophie, let's just introduce the movie. So this is the second full moon movie, and I thought it would be fitting for Columbus Day, because happy Columbus Day, everyone. I thought it would be fitting to have a movie called Forbidden Adventures on Columbus Day, and maybe it would be some sort of a science fiction horror movie where people are exploring an island and then there's monsters or something. That's what I thought it would be. But no, it's people doing other stuff, and it's a comedy. It's an Italian comedy called Forbidden Adventures. The original title is Tales of Erotica, and which I think that both titles are terrible.
Yeah.
Because Tales of Erotica, they're not really supposed to be erotic. They're just supposed to be funny. And like, if there's anything erotic in it, it's just like a byproduct of just being like a raunchy comedy. And then Forbidden Adventures is just a terrible, terrible title. And the thing is that we're judging this movie based on not only the quality of the original movie, but the quality of the movie that Full Moon put out. Because they're the ones, what they did, they dubbed over it, they came up with that title, and then they did the poster. And how did they do with each of those aspects compared to the original? Well, we wouldn't really know about the dubbing, but there were a lot of very odd dubbing instances where the voices sounded very funny. Let's just say that.
Well, you know what it was? It sounded like they sounded cartoony.
Yeah, it sounded like a live-action cartoon.
People who do cartoon voices were doing the voices for this movie, the dubbing voices.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know, it was just weird. And I've seen movies where they've been dubbed over, and they've sounded a lot better than this. This just sounded very cartoony and over the top.
The only thing that was probably real was there was a convent and a monastery featured in the movie, and they did this chant. In the monastery, these monks were doing this chant in Italian, and you could tell by them speaking, look at their lips, that was the actual thing.
Okay.
It was in Italian.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And then the title, as I said, a terrible title, right, Sophie? Like, that just does not describe the movie.
Well, Marco saw it ahead of me, and he told me this isn't a horror movie, that we made a mistake. And so, but we just went ahead and watched it anyway. So
that's just... I
was waiting for the horror, and he said, don't bother, it's not a horror movie.
That's the gamble of full moon, 10 full moon movies.
Well, I didn't...
Is that you don't know what you're going to get.
I didn't know they made this kind of... Well, they didn't make it, actually. I didn't know they had this kind of weird movie. I thought they did mostly horror.
Italian?
No, Full Moon.
But they didn't make this movie. They just licensed it.
That's what I said.
They license all types of movies. Oh, Sophie,
I can't do anything about it.
There's like
I'm hungry.
There's like a whole other movie going on in your stomach.
Yeah, I'm starving, so.
It's like... It's like, what...
It's probably protesting against how silly the movie was.
Well, you should go audition your stomach to be the voice of the next Godzilla movie.
Yeah, or the next Private, what was it? That
the
one
next Private.
The African-American guy and the military academy.
A military academy?
Yeah, those boys, they're...
Major Payne?
Yeah.
What?
Remember when they gave him that...
oh, God.
That stuff, and they put it in his cupcakes, and he ate it, and then you could feel his stomach, and it was making all these noises. That would be me.
Oh, God. Okay, so, and then the poster looked kind of like an action adventure, the poster for the U.S. version. So overall, I thought that the movie was actually pretty good. I thought it was pretty good because, nowadays we don't have any comedy anymore because comedy is too offensive for people like Safi. And so,
what are you talking about? Don't say that stuff about me.
Safi, you said this movie was blasphemous. You said...
No, I didn't. I never said that at all. If you're not going to do this right, then I'm not going to do it.
What do you have to say about it?
I don't know what to say about it. It was goofy. It had goofy music with springs and all kinds of weird sound effects.
Well, yeah, the music was terrible.
I don't know. I have no idea how to describe it.
I'll
call it the anything goes music.
Annoying, loud, obnoxious. It was like... Like, if you guys didn't like that 3-second thing, that's the whole movie. That's the music in the whole movie. Is what that sounds like. And we're actually, by the way, the first channel to review this movie, which is pretty cool.
Why? Nobody's going to see this.
Safi.
Well, I guess if you want to see women getting the best of men in sexual situations, but not in a dark way, in a goofy way. It's a goofy movie.
Well, it starts off dark to where... It reminded me of the Bloody Judge movie with Christopher Lee that I watched last year, where you have these people who didn't really do anything wrong, and then they're still, like, he'll sentence them to death or torture because they're women. And he was like a really evil judge in real life, because that was based on a true story. And you thought the same thing in this movie. Like, the movie starts off with these women in court, and they all look like they've done nothing wrong. They have no remorse.
Well, and I didn't even know. I thought they were all, I don't know. It was kind of like supposed to be the Salem witch trials.
Yeah.
It wasn't. They all had the same kind of outfit on. They're like these gray, I don't even know what to call them, robes or something, or nightgowns, or weird dresses. I don't even know what the material is, like a gauzy material.
Slut robes?
I don't know. Well, anyway, what you would think if it was a dark movie, a horror movie, it was all about sexual transgressions and how they were going to blame it all on the women. Well, it ended up...
Safi, don't do that.
Okay, well, anyway.
You're just explaining. You're just explaining.
Well, it just starts off that way, the way they look. They're
Safi.
But they don't look like they're dreading anything. They have very complacent...
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said, it looks like they have no remorse. And for some reason, they're grouped together, too.
Yeah, well, they said that in the movie. They said, I don't know why we're having all these cases put together.
And then they're like, it'll make sense after I tell you the specifics of the cases. And then it's like, no, it actually still doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And it wouldn't, even in an Italian court, a real court, they wouldn't do. That's why I said it's a goofy movie. And you just have to be prepared to relax. And if you want to see pretend sex...
Oh, Safi, I'm going to actually talk about the movie. I'm not just going to
go
go in circles. I actually was looking forward to just, it's an anthology, and anthologies can be really fun. They can have a lot of fun to them because it's a variety of stories. It's not just one story that you're stuck with. And they did have a good variety of stories in this movie in terms of they all felt like different kinds of stories. They all had different kinds of endings. And another great thing is that normally anthology movies always end the same, which is that they end with the main people getting killed. Those movies and found footage movies, they always end that way. And it's always really irritating because it's like, why would I want to watch any of these movies if, like, I just know, oh, they're going to die, they're going to die, they're going to die. Who cares then? It's like there's nothing interesting about it if I know that. And with this movie, it's the opposite, to where it ends up, we'll talk about each story specifically, and we'll also talk about Safi's personal feelings towards the women in this movie.
I don't have any feelings at all about them. I thought they were fun. They were funny.
Yeah, you do.
It was funny.
Yeah, you do. And you picked this movie, Safi.
I was looking at a title and thinking it was horror. I don't know how many times we're going to go over this, and I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm just not going to talk anymore.
Safi, what are you, David Duchovny? You pick Forbidden Adventures. It's just so hilarious because, like, you know, last year I picked everything, and I didn't really pick anything like this except for, I guess, Dr. Femalian was kind of creepy because it was all about an alien woman making a high school student get raped by every woman in town. That was pretty scary. But, so the first story is all about this guy at a nunnery. Or he has like a girlfriend at this nunnery, I guess. And she's pretty average. Wouldn't you agree, Safi?
That is not the point of the movie. And she wasn't average at all.
Really?
She was a pretty girl, and that was his girlfriend. And you could tell, I just had some feeling about that she was going to be a nun or something, and that was their last night together. And so, but guess what? It wasn't. But the thing is, he when he visited her, he didn't really actually get to go into the nunnery, the convent, the right way.
How would you rank?
He had to climb the outside brickwork, or stone. It should be stone, like masonry stone. Or
Safi,
whatever.
how would you rate her on a scale of 1 to 10?
I don't know. I don't do that. I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. I'm not talking about the way people look.
But that's the point of the movie.
Why?
That's a part of the movie. Because that's like the whole movie is that, like, you have these characters.
They're all pretty girls, and this guy, and she said her friend said the only way he could visit her was climb up the outside. And of course, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, there were places where he could put his feet, but it was like rock climbing almost.
It was pretty scary. That part could have been like a horror movie almost.
Well,
like,
they could have turned that into a horror movie in 2 seconds.
They could have turned this whole movie into a horror movie, and
all they had to do is tweak it a few times.
All the actors were pretty good. But Safi, so you would say she's like a 7.
I'm not going to answer that. I think that's asinine stupid. All the men were about a 1, okay? They were goofy looking because it was a goofy movie. They were all pretty girls, and all the men were stupid.
That was the point. One. That was the point.
I think there was one.
Which one was good? Which guy was good?
The monk guy, yeah, the main one.
The main one. You mean
the skinny guy?
The guy who
arranged everything.
Oh God, Safi, oh no, I don't think so. That's the whole point of that story, is that he's a hypocrite. Anyways, basically, guys, I'm not even kidding here. It is a whole thing of Porky's. Like, it's really strange. Like, I don't know if the people who made Porky saw this movie, because this is the exact same thing that happens in Porky's, where somebody can't see anything, and he positions himself so that he's exposed and he can have sex with people through like a hole in the wall. They did the same exact thing in Porky's with the whole shower thing, and then they had the same exact thing happen where all the girls look at him and he doesn't know it, and then an authority figure comes in and she ends up messing around with him. It's literally the exact same thing almost. It's pretty strange, but the only difference is that in this movie he's standing at a window and he can't see because he's holding on to nails that are in the wall, and he's literally like hanging on for his life almost. And it was really strange because his girlfriend, do you know why she was doing that? Why she was arranging like for her friends to all sexually assault him?
I don't think there was.
Yeah, they were.
The window had bars on it.
They all got in line.
Yeah, to stick their butt into the bars. That's their butts into the bars.
But he was in the bars as well, Safi. That was the point.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He was supposed to have sex with his girlfriend through the bars of the windows.
Yeah,
but
he
instead,
was hanging on for his dear life. He couldn't have sex with a flea, much less a human.
Okay, Safi, I won't talk about this anymore. But the point is that his girlfriend arranged for all of her friends to come in and sexually assault him, and all have sex with him through the bars and the window, which doesn't make any sense regardless.
Well,
because
I didn't understand that either. I don't know why she did that either. I thought that was weird.
It was weird, and honestly, she did deserve some kind of punishment for that. She didn't deserve to be put to death, but that was very strange, and that was criminal behavior, because he did not know that he'd be having sex with an entire group of her friends. And he wouldn't have even been able to anyway. And then what happens is that another nun comes in who's like an authority figure, and she starts having sex with him.
Yeah, she tells them all the other girls to go away, that they're in big trouble and everything.
Big trouble.
But then she turns around and does the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of it.
Were going to do.
That's why it's funny, is that you didn't expect that, you didn't expect that. And it was just okay. It really wasn't anything special, especially since they did the same thing in Porky's, and that was so much funnier. It's not even funny. And then what happens, probably the funniest part, is that he falls. And
he's alive, but he's really damaged.
Yeah, and you see him in court, and he's got all these bandages and all these splints, and he has like an eye patch, like he's just covered in bandages. And I thought that was actually really funny that they showed him.
Because he fell.
And he had a right to be angry. Like, do you really think that he, like, because they did this speech at the end where they talked about all the guys are bad, they all did things that were worse than what the women did. But I think in this case that, like, did he really do anything wrong at all?
She made him, it was her fault in that she led him on.
Yeah.
And he thought, and he could have said, no, this isn't right, and I guess put a stop to it. But he thought, well, as long as she's agreeing, I'll just go ahead and go with it.
Yeah, she's a consenting adult, so there's really nothing.
And she didn't have him, like we said, she didn't come in. He wasn't going to be coming in. He didn't know this either, the regular way. He was going to have to climb up the side of the building like Spider-Man. And he couldn't, it was like rock climbing. There was these little handholds and there's nails.
Guys, he was supposed to hold on and have sex with her through the bars and the windows.
Well, holding on for dear life.
Like, that's just, I'm sorry, but that sounds like that's like just not worth it. Like, she's just not worth his time. And then she's like, and she had a conspiracy to rape him with all her friends. That's the really strange part, because you'd think that he'd be able to tell something was different too. Like, he'd be able to have some sort of oh, this seems odd. Like, this is going on for like 3 hours, but he falls. That's the end of that. I give that story a C. What would you give it, Safi?
Well, I do the same thing.
The next story is the worst one. It's this really strange story about this really gross looking, like, he looks like an 80-year-old, and he has this like 20-year-old wife, which is, and he thinks his wife is cheating on her or something, and there's like a hole in the wall that his attractive maid shows him. She shows him that it's his wife's bottom for sure. And Safi, what'd you think of that? How would you rate his wife?
I'm not doing that.
How would you rate the maid?
I'm not doing that. They were both very pretty girls, and
how pretty?
They all had long hair.
On a scale of 1 pretty to 10 pretty.
They're all pretty.
But
and they were pretty people.
Is she a 7?
They're the pretty people.
Is she a 7 pretty or an 8 pretty? Let's just settle that discussion. Safi.
I told you I'm not going to do that.
So what?
It was just goofy, but it was goofy bad because
I thought it was goofy good.
Well, it was clever, I guess, but I mean, it's something that's been done.
They tried their best.
Having a whole, in horror movies especially, you know, they have these people and they go the girls go visit the bathroom and there's a hole in the wall and somebody from the male side is always staring, and then they attack them and they get killed. And this wasn't like that. I mean, that's what I said. With a couple of tweaks, they could have made this into a horror story because they had a lot of references that could have been tweaked into horror references.
Well, what happened is he sees that his wife is cheating on him with some guy.
But he can't see the guy's face.
And then that guy runs over to him in that room.
Well, he's working for them.
And pretends like he's someone else. And he says, "Oh, wow, you're having sex with your maid?" And because, like, we see his maid undressed. And so, Safi, how would you rank the
I am not going to rank anything. I did that yesterday, and I'm done with it. We have things to do.
Safi, just pretend that this is a matter of national security.
No, it isn't a matter of national security. What's going on with national security is documents that are labeled national security to stay in Washington and not end up in somebody's hotel.
Safi, just pretend
club.
Just pretend that this is a matter of international intrigue. Just imagine one of these actresses, Safi, is sitting there and she sees this review and she's like, "Why isn't Safi ranking my bottom with the other women's? I'm really offended." And you'll be like, "Oh, sorry, I'm not going to do that because I'm a party pooper."
I don't think Italians are like that anyway. They don't give a crap.
Really?
Yeah, really.
What do you think Italians are like, Safi?
I just think that they're free-spirited.
Really?
And they have a big sense of humor. And
let's see your Italian impression.
They worry about more things in life than...
It's me, Mario! Is that an Italian? You do an Italian, Safi.
Why don't you let's just do the review, okay?
Okay. So, well, you distracted because you're supposed to rank them.
Not doing that.
And you're supposed to rank their body parts,
I'm not
too.
ranking their body parts.
So that you can come up with the perfect Frankenstein monster out of the characters from Forbidden Adventures. So, he has to pay off the guy, And then the only funny part is that the guy is sort of conning both of them because he forces the husband to pay him and then he forces the wife to pay him off as well.
Know. They don't know about each other's payments. So he's actually making money off of their dumbness.
I thought that was kind of funny. And then he puts on a show where he says, you should pay me because I'm going to go get rid of the guy who's screwing your wife. And then he goes in there and he puts on a show. It's just really strange. And then doesn't the husband start having sex with the maid as well?
I don't know.
Whatever. That was the worst one. I give that one a D+, but still, I would say it's not that bad. Like, at least it's a comedy. Like, they never make this movie nowadays because they call it sexist and misogynistic and all that bullshit. That's what they'd say nowadays. And then the next story is about these 4 wives, and they're really mad because their husbands won't have sex with them. It's really actually hilarious because the husbands, all they do is sit around drinking beer and playing, like, dice games. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty hilarious because it's like, you have to think, like, were there actually people back then, like adult men who just, like, sat around all day playing dice games with each other?
No, they were working their asses off.
I don't know, maybe sometimes.
In the field or even in the city.
But this was the evening. This would have been, like, after their work.
Oh.
And so I thought that was really funny. But what happens, the reason why they're not paying attention to their wives is because they're going to a whorehouse and having sex with the same prostitute, which was really weird. It was really weird because they framed this prostituting place almost like it was just an abandoned barn. And like they were all raping this girl who was asleep or something. Like, that's the impression I got at first, was that, like, are they all raping her? Like, I didn't understand that at all.
That's what I thought they were doing, too. But she just thought it was hilarious.
But then it turned out that she was a prostitute, I guess.
I don't know.
That was a whorehouse, Safi. That was supposed to be it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You find that out by the end. But then all the wives conspire to switch positions with the prostitute so that the men actually have sex with their wives. Which is just, it's really bizarre. But it's actually pretty funny. I thought that one was the best one. It was the longest story out of all of them. And I thought that all the actors were the best. The main actor, he was really funny. The main actress, she was really funny. So I thought that was the best one. And it figures because that's the story that they show on the poster. They show a picture of her and her husband, and go figure, that was the best part. And I give that one a B+. What would you give it, Safi?
Well, that was funny because they were substituting the wives. On a certain day, they're substituting the wives of those husbands for that prostitute. So instead of the prostitute, it would be one wife one day, and then the next day it would be another wife. And then until they went through them, and then I guess she would do it too. And so they each had a day of the week, and each husband went in there, and they thought they were, because it was all behind, and you didn't know what was going on. You didn't see the face, and it was dark, and of course they'd probably been drinking, and they didn't know, and they thought it was the prostitute every time, which is kind of weird. And
they were all taking turns with the same one each day.
Yeah, but it was a different wife.
Yeah, but right? it was, yeah.
Okay, well, they were all, okay. So the wives, I guess because they were sex deprived, they didn't mind having sex with all these different men.
Yeah, it was really creepy. It's like, ugh.
Gross. Ugh. Yeah. I don't know. It was just funny how they were so stupid. They were so stupid that they could fool them like that.
It was pretty funny.
I don't know. I'll just give it gee, I don't know, a C plus.
And then the last one is sort of like it's sort of partly making fun of like these religious types who are, you know, they have all this hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Which is, it sort of reminded me a bit of Benedetta in that way. It's all about this guy. He's not very good to his wife. And, you know, his wife, she's probably the most average looking one in the movie. Wouldn't you agree, Sophie?
I don't know.
How would
these women
how would
were
you
all pretty
how would you
people.
rank all the wives?
I'm not going to rank anybody's.
Why?
Not going to do it.
Why?
If you want to do that, go ahead.
No.
Well, I'm not going
You
to
do
do
it.
it. No, I don't want to.
You do it. You have wife 1, wife 2, wife 3, and wife 4. You go 4 is wife something and on. What is it, Sophie? Go ahead, Sophie.
No.
Sophie, go ahead.
No.
Come on, Sophie.
So anyway, and
rank them.
the final one, the guy's
Rank
mean
them.
to her,
Well,
and so she makes it. This monk comes by, and I guess
she's a
they're
slut.
already. Well, I don't know. Anyway, they're I don't know. Are they already meeting or something?
They're having
each other.
They're having an affair, and so this monk, he actually says, "We'll stage your suicide, and then you can come run away with me, and then we can have sex all the time." And what happens is all the monks just happen to be walking across this field at the same time that they're there, and all the monks, there's like 9 monks or like 6 monks actually, and all the monks say that if she agrees to have sex with all of them all the time, then they won't tell anyone about the affair. And so then she moves to the convent.
No, but it was a monastery.
I mean, the monastery, but they call it a convent,
I know,
Sophie.
I think that was some kind of
that was
translation.
American error.
Males are monastery, females are convents.
They called them all.
I know.
They called them all friars too.
Yeah, well, that's right, Friar Tuck.
And so basically each day of the week she has sex with a different one, and you know that's why I say she's a slut, because like she's clearly like. The story kind of made it seem like, oh, maybe she's really unhappy. But then it's like she's having a relationship with like 7 people.
And all the time I was wondering, too, is anybody using birth control?
No.
And then, of course, go ahead.
Oh, and so part of what's hilarious about the story is that the husband thinks that his wife killed herself, and so he's doing all this mourning, and he's just like really depressed, and he has like a monument to her, and it's really hilarious.
It was like staged to where, didn't she like jump into the well?
Yeah.
Or they said she jumped into the well and killed herself. And the well is very deep, so they can't tell.
And then you have this one guy, and he doesn't get to have sex with her at all, because there's 8 monks who know, and one of them, though, there's no day of the week for one of them, and so they keep on having this joke where it's like, you can have sex with her when we're gone, or when we're not here, and so it's like this funny thing of like he'll never get to be with her, which it's like, it's poking fun at, like, you know, I guess none of them are supposed to have a relationship.
No.
And so that's the funny part, is that, like, he shouldn't even care if he's an actual monk. And then she gets pregnant, and they have to stage a miracle, which is the crime that she was accused of, which they point out that, you know, he's the one who committed the crime as well. All of them did. It wasn't just her. And so they have it where they do like a ritual, and she comes back from the dead, and then she has the baby, but the twist is that the baby is black, and so that's how
one of the friars was African, or African born, or
black.
Well,
and so that's how they know that it wasn't his baby, is because it's a black baby, and so I thought that was hilarious. That story I give like a B minus because the music in that story was the worst. It was so loud, so irritating. It almost made me want to turn it off.
I don't get the springs.
Yeah, do it.
You know, boing, boing, boing. That was all part of the music.
Yeah.
And you know, you could see it like in a cartoon where there's something going on, like a coyote.
It's music.
A wily coyote or whatever, and you know, that I can't even think of what it's called. But anyway, any kind of like cartoon where an animal's bopping up and down. That's the kind of sound effect.
It's music you hear in like a swamp or like a southern, like a country movie. It was really strange.
With other music, and it's really weird.
Really bizarre.
Then there's some other sounds. I don't even know what was making them.
That's what it sounded like. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger's having a seizure or something.
I don't know. It's just really weird.
And then, basically, I think the best part of the movie is the ending. Well, not the ending, but the ending, because you think all these women are going to be put to death because, you know, they obviously, you know, they did that a lot back then. They'd have these women,
and in like America too,
with the witch trials,
calling everybody, just saying, "Oh, she's a witch.
She danced naked in the forest."
Yeah, or some, you know, just bullshit like that.
And then they get put to death or tortured to death.
And they could have easily done that.
Unfortunately.
Made it a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't have gone with the tenor of the movie, which was comedy and goofiness, to do that. But I was like, well, you never know.
They did something really, really good, though, where the judge made the decision, and he said, well, you know what? All these women, the men in these cases, they did crimes that were actually worse than what any of the women did. And so actually, like, these women don't need to be punished at all. They can just all have sex with me. But I did really like the speech because it was a good point that, like, you know, in all these stories, the men were, like, making themselves out to be these, like, innocent victims. They didn't do anything wrong. And it was clear that they did, for the most part. You know, I'd say for the first one, he didn't do anything wrong. For the second one, he almost didn't do anything wrong. So, anyways, I rate this movie as a whole. I give it, you know, in elementary school, they had these mashed potatoes that they'd have for the chicken patty day. And there was this rule where you do not eat the chicken patties. You do not eat the chicken tenders at this school.
No good.
No, because they were gross. Like they had this weird texture, and there was like rumor that they had like skulls and bones inside them, and like, because there was this one time where I was eating a nugget, and there was like a piece of bone that was like this big. Look. It was as big as like a dime, and it was a ball, and it went in my mouth, and I had to spit. That was so gross. I never ate their chicken patties again.
I wouldn't blame you.
Chicken patty Thursdays, but they had these mashed potatoes. The mashed potatoes were very average, and it had this gravy that was like snot consistency.
Oh, God.
But it was okay. And I kind of enjoyed the mashed potatoes. So that's kind of like what this movie is to me, is that, you know, I was expecting to have a nice chicken patty meal, but instead I just eat the mashed potato and gravy and the cookie and the milk. And, you know, that was fine enough for me. And something else people would do too is they not get any gravy, and then they put ketchup on the mashed potatoes instead. And it actually tasted pretty good because the mashed potatoes were just so flavorless. So, Safi, what would you rate this movie?
Well, years ago, I lived in an apartment with 3 other girls.
Ooh.
And we had, this was in college, and we had Thanksgiving together. And we invited all the neighbors and appropriate boyfriends, if anybody had a boyfriend. But anyway, it was really mainly all the neighbors together. It was an apartment at University of Missouri on 402 South 9th Street.
Is this the one where Jeffrey Dahmer fed you human meat?
And so everybody made dishes. I made pumpkin pie, and anyway, this one girl named Rita, she's from Missouri, and because this was in Missouri, a lot of them were from Missouri, almost everybody, and she made this Jell-O, and I don't know how she did. She must have had ice cube trays, but those little ice cube trays, and she made different flavors of Jell-O, like every flavor that you could get, and put all the cubes of Jell-O together, and that's what it was. It was just, and you could have whipped cream with it if you wanted. They were all she was on a diet with the two of the other roommates. And
Sophie, why don't you make that?
And anyway, it was just goofy. I mean, it was a goofy dessert. It was just goofy, period. It was like the movie. It was full of different colors, and it was different people, and it was different, just goofy. And the springing was like that noise, boing, 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 Jell-O bouncing off a Jell-O cube. And so that's what I would, that Jell-O cube dessert.
You know what that was kind of like, Safi? Remember when I did that gymnastics camp and they had that huge pit with all the foam cubes?
Yeah.
That's what it's like. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. That's right.
Did you eat it?
I forgot about that. Yeah, no, I didn't.
Why not?
Well, they were on a diet, and I thought they should have it because they were trying to limit their calories. Because Thanksgiving dinner can bring a lot of calories, and everybody brought something. It was really fun. We all eating Thanksgiving meal together.
Which girl from this movie is which flavor of Jell-O?
I don't know.
Like, what are all the different?
No.
Why not?
No. Anyway, they were all pretty. They were kind of like, I thought they all kind of looked alike.
Kinda.
Yeah,
Except for
maybe it was because they had the same hairdo or the same makeup.
They had the same makeup, probably.
Same height. They were like the same height. One wasn't shorter than the other. They all seemed like they were the same size.
That's why it seemed to me like at first I thought maybe they are a group of like witches or something, because it was weird. Like
or they were related.
Yeah.
So that's what I noticed right away. But they were sitting in court, and you looked at them, they all sat at the same height. So they were all the same size. Like, let's say they were all 5'6", 5'7", whatever.
I would still
have the same kind of hairstyle.
I would still recommend the movie, though. I would say it is a pretty good movie.
Well, if you're not offended, it isn't really offensive, the sex stuff. It really isn't. And really, if I'm saying that, you really should believe it. If it bothers you to see some girl's butt.
Which one?
I don't know.
Which one bothered you?
I think that they didn't bother me at all. I'm telling people that if that doesn't bother them, but it's just goofy. It's like there's a word for it, but like a parody or something.
A satire.
Satire is a better word.
But that's why it was good, though. Like the part at the end where you thought they were going to get killed, and then instead the judge was like, no, actually, they weren't really guilty of anything. They didn't do anything wrong. And it was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. This is pretty surprising and pretty satisfying that they didn't get punished. And you know what they could have done, too? Was they could have had it at the end where instead of all the women ending up with the judge, which was really... They should have had the one from the last story end up with the guy who never got to be with her or something. That would have been good. So anyway, Safi?
Okay, well, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be a member. Subscribe to our channel. We welcome all new subscribers because we like a variety of comments, and we like to hear what other people have to say. So that's it, everybody.
Better
Goodbye.
call Saul. Bye!